Hello friend and welcome to Borgcast 2.15 with Peter and Amory.
Hello.
And today we are covering Journey to Babel, which is obviously a reference to the Old Testament. Although it's not the most auspicious place to try and get different races to communicate with one another, is it?
No.
Babel. But hey-ho. Written by Dorothy Fontana. It's her fifth story. And directed by...
Peverly?
Yeah.
Captain's log, stardate 3842.3. The Enterprise has been assigned to transport ambassadors of Federation planets to this vitally important council.
Mr. Spark, we'll leave orbit in 2 hours. Would you care to beam down and visit your parents?
Ambassador Sarek and his wife are my parents. We favor admission.
You favor? Why? You call us thieves?
Devote yourself to motivations of passion or gain.
My father is quite capable of killing.
Oh, go to him. Now, please.
I cannot.
Doctor, his heart stopped.
So you start with McCoy and Kirk in dress uniform, with McCoy complaining about the uniform. It's because they've got a load of ambassadors on board on way to a conference. The Vulcan ambassador is arriving. And then I like this. They have this thing where they depressurise the hangar deck to let the shuttle in and then repressurise it again. We don't see that in later Treks.
No, they have force fields in later Treks, so they don't need to do that. But yeah, it's quite a nice basic technology, which is quite good. It's a bit weird that they're shuttling Vulcan ambassador rather than transporting him, but apparently they'd run out of budget, so they couldn't afford to do the transporter effect. So instead we get loads of stock footage of the shuttle coming into the shuttle bay.
But then also it could be to do with the course that the Enterprise is on, and it made sense for Sarek to take a shuttle.
Well, it's an Enterprise shuttle, so they would have had to send the shuttle.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, it doesn't, not really.
Never mind.
Oh, well, never mind. And then you have, in the lineup, you've got Spock and McCoy, and McCoy can't do the Vulcan salute. Sarek arrives and blanks Spock, and then introduces she who is my wife, who's Amanda.
Yeah, so Sarek, obviously famously played by Mark Leonard, having previously played a Vulcan in Balance of Terror. I just wondered whether they hired him because they knew that they had a set of ears that fitted. I don't know. Possibly also because he's a really good actor.
He's really good.
It's an iconic performance that will go on to last into the next generation. Will frankly never be bettered in terms of actors playing Sarek.
No.
And then playing Amanda, we have Jane Wyatt, who will return in Star Trek 4. She was blacklisted for protesting against the hearings of the Un-American Activities Committee, so respect is due.
Yeah.
She was also in 200 episodes of Father Knows Best, which was a popular sitcom back in the day, apparently, in the United States. It's an interesting headgear.
His collar.
And collar combination, presumably to hide the fact that she's not a Vulcan. I don't know, because if we knew straight away that you got a Vulcan and a non-Vulcan together, you'd know straight away they were Spock's parents, because we know he's half Vulcan.
Yeah.
So possibly they're hiding that. But the huge collar is very Mars Attacks, isn't it?
It is, but then part of me wonders, does she wear that ordinarily to go around Vulcan? So the fact that she's a Vulcan isn't obvious.
Yeah, similar to how, so Spock wears beanie hats when he's on Earth.
Yeah, I just wonder, what I mean, so in other words, yes, it's disguising the fact that she is human, but does she wear that ordinarily?
There's possibly a reason for that, yes, very good. She's also wearing a quilt as a cloak. Explain that.
No. I can't explain what she wears later either.
And then we get a bit of Vulcan fingering, so to speak. All the hand touching between them apparently was added by the actors at Leonard Nimoy's suggestion of how Vulcans would show affection. It works
I like that, yeah. It's just a little bit of affection. And there is tenderness there, but it's not too much. I like that. And also, I honestly can't remember if it's the same actor from Discovery and Strange New Worlds, but it's the portrayal, I think, of Amanda is very similar in the person who's in Strange New Worlds and the actor playing it now. Mm-hmm. Seems quite emotional at times, and very sort of tender. Kirk says that Spock will show them around the ship, and then Sarek says he would prefer another guide. And then Kirk says, Spock, we're going to be here for a few hours. Why don't you go down and see your parents? And then he explains these are his parents.
Bum, bum, bum.
Which at the time wasn't known.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, for those of us who've been fans of Trek for a while, we know full well that Sarek is Spock's dad. But yeah, at the time they didn't. And that's your teaser. And then as they're having the tour of the ship, Amanda comes across Spock in engineering and asks him why he doesn't smile. And he says humans smile too easily.
Well, he smiles too easily on Strange New Worlds, but never mind.
And then she then says, in 4 years you've not visited. And he says, the situation between myself and my father has not changed. Which I can understand, but you get from that Amanda misses seeing him. And you can see that. And then she is explaining to Kirk that Sarek wanted Spock to follow in his footsteps. So it's not that he's got a problem with Starfleet, it's that he expected Spock to follow in his footsteps as he followed in his father's footsteps. Uhura messages to say that she can pick out a faint signal, but only really symbols. She can't translate it and she can't locate it either. And Kirk's like, right, yellow alert. Then Sarek says, I'm going to leave now, finish giving the tour to my wife. And then you cut to a scene where there are some small gold people eating Play-Doh, and it kind of confuses me.
Right, so these are all the various delegates, most of whom, rather than have any sort of appliances, have just basically face paint. So all the budget on this episode went on face paint and costumes, basically.
There's a purple person, which, I like. I think it's the food that puts me off.
Yeah, it's a brightly coloured
And weird. And I think one of the reasons it puts me off is because if you're on a Federation ship, why does that stop them serving normal food?
I suppose that hopefully they've got a variety of things. So just out of shop, there's a bunch of pork pies and that sort of thing.
Where
quiches.
Are the pasties? Where's the chicken legs?
Yes.
Where are the mini quiches?
Little Scotch eggs.
Yeah, cheese and pineapple.
Although,
Does anyone do that anymore, by the way?
I have not seen it in a long while. Well, thinking about it, maybe these are the only foods that everybody can eat, so they're avoiding any allergies this way.
Oh, okay. People can only eat Play-Doh.
Apparently.
Right. But we see some Andorians and some Tellarites.
For the first time, yes. We meet Ambassador Gav, who sounds like he comes from Bolton with a name like that. The masks are interesting. The eyes are disturbingly deep set, so it kind of looks like they haven't got eyes for the most part.
I think that's the only bit of the mask I don't like, actually.
The rest of it's fine. It's just that the eyes just don't look right, do they?
Yeah, no.
I like the costumes as well.
Yeah.
And we've got the Andorians as well. Ambassador Shraz, not that I don't think he's ever named. He's played by Reggie Nolder, who plays a bartender in the Battlestar Galactica pilot. Possibly the one that was captured by the Ovians, I think. And I thought the makeup stood up very well. I mean, at times it's not so well applied. You can see necks and things in human colours, but, other than that, I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, I mean, I like the look of the... I mean, obviously they perfect the look of the Andorians later, but I still think overall it's a good look.
Yeah, you kind of expect the antennae to wiggle, but you won't get that till Enterprise.
Yeah. And then the Tellarites say to Sarek, which way are you going to vote at the conference? And then Sarek's like, but it's not the conference yet. This isn't the right place. The Tellarite's getting angry, and then Kirk says, he's right, this isn't the conference, and I will have order on my ship. The Tellarite storms off. And then Amanda is talking to McCoy and effectively says that Spock has a teddy bear, which McCoy finds very amusing, except that Spock then says that yes, but on Vulcan they're alive and have 6-inch fangs.
Yes, this is the Sellat, which we will see in the animated series, and also something of an interest of Boimler's, we find out recently.
Yeah. And then there's a strange vessel approaching at Warp 10. I didn't think Warp 10 was a thing.
Yeah, they do sometimes the ships do Warp 10 in the original series when they really shouldn't, but we don't find that out till Next Generation, basically. But yeah, we don't see much of the vessel. In the original version, it's just a blinky light, as these things so often are, sadly. And even in the remastered version, there's a vague design there, but it's mostly glowy light, to be honest, just a thing whizzing round. And as per usual with these things, you never get a proper look at it. So It's a bit of a missed opportunity, I thought.
And then you have Sarek telling Amanda off for embarrassing Spock. And she's like, well, I thought you didn't like Starfleet. And he's basically like, no, that's not what the issue is at all. And, still show him respect as Spock. Regardless of whether or not he's my son, he should still be shown respect because he's an officer.
I like that. I mean, it's not all completely anti-Spock, but so he'll sort of stand up for him on the basis that he should be respected because he's a Starfleet officer,
Yeah.
even though he doesn't approve of Spock being in Starfleet. I thought it was really nice.
I like
And it
that.
ends quite sweetly, that scene, doesn't it?
Yeah.
More finger-touching.
Yeah. The alien ship is moving in parallel to them, and so, it's obviously more of a cause for concern. Then the Tellarite is bugging Sarek again, and then Sarek says that there's illegal mining on Corridon, and Tellarite ships have been found carrying Corridon, I think, was it dilithium that they're mining?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Tellarite's like, oh, so you're saying that we did it, how dare you, and tries to start a fight. And then later on, you find out that the Tellarite ambassador has been murdered. And the way that he's been murdered is that pressure has been applied to his neck in a particular way, which is what Vulcans call... Now, it's not quite the Tau Shiar. Which is
sounds like it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Romulan Secret Service. I wonder whether that's why they call it that.
Oh, that's an interesting thought, because presumably there's sort of overlap in the language between
Yeah.
Vulcan and Romulan, so... the strangulation force.
Yes. And basically, a Vulcan would know how to break the neck in the right place. So then there's this conversation, effectively, would Sarek do it? And Spock is basically saying, well, it's not logical for him to do it. But if he had a reason, yes, he could. And Sarek is just explaining that he wasn't around because he was in meditation when he collapses. And it turns out there's a problem with his cardiovascular system. Meanwhile, they're still not sure whose ship it is, but in trying to triangulate the signal, Uhura realises that the reception point is on the Enterprise. Spock can't decode it, but clearly someone on board is receiving the transmission, so Kirk tells Uhura to switch the sensors around to focus in on the ship so they can pinpoint where on the ship that's coming from.
Yeah, he's kind of rude about this, and you'd have thought Uhura would know to do that anyway, so he shouldn't have to say that, so... Yeah, that was a bit... I didn't like that. It was nice that Romulans and Klingons get a mention, though.
Yes.
Rejected origins of the spaceship. So, there's quite a bit of sort of universe building going on at this point, which is nice.
Yeah. Back with Sarek, it turns out he's got a heart problem, but he didn't tell his wife, and he's actually had 3 other attacks, and he was having one of them while the Tellarite ambassador was being murdered, so he couldn't have done it because he was incapacitated, though, of course, there are no witnesses.
It is my dicky ticker.
No more low. Excellent. An operation is necessary, but Nurse Chapel reports that there isn't enough Vulcan blood on board to perform it, and Sarek has a rare blood type as well, just to make it even harder. McCoy also reflects he doesn't have much experience in operating on Vulcans, and he's worried about the experimental drug they'll have to use, which would place great stress on Sarek's spleen. Oh no, not the spleen! Nothing worse than a strained spleen. Spock suggests using the drug on himself, which McCoy and Amanda reject, but the Vulcan points out his suggestion is the only logical way to save his father. Then there's a very sudden cut to Kirk fighting with an Andorian. That just comes out completely of nowhere. He's right in the middle of the fight, rather than it starting, which is a bit odd. Perhaps they were pressed for time. And this Andorian hasn't got enough blue makeup applied around his neck, unfortunately.
Or his hands at one point.
Yeah. Kirk pulls off a weird wrestling-style move, bouncing off the wall for no good reason, and then gets stabbed in the back as a result, so what a pranny he is. Weirdly, Kirk then calls Spock rather than sickbay before collapsing. You'd have thought he'd have got somebody medical there rather than security. Particularly since he'd knocked the Andorian out at this point. Sarek's condition is worsening, but now Spock won't help because he's responsible for the ship. McCoy logically points out they could pass command to Scotty, but Spock questions the grounds for doing so on the basis he'd be doing it for personal reasons. I mean, one would hope that Starfleet would be humane enough to understand why he would pass on command for that reason. Amanda goes to plead to Spock to hand over command. He points out they're not in normal circumstances, so has to retain command, which is a bit harsh on Scotty, because he saved the day several times when things haven't been normal, so...
We saw it, was it the last episode?
Yeah, when, in Bread and Circuses, where he knocked out the...
he got the special commendation because he found a solution.
So I think you can trust Scotty.
I think so. I mean, I can understand that he feels responsible... That maybe he feels that even if Scotty's got some experience, he hasn't got as much as Spock himself, and that therefore it's putting more lives at risk.
I don't know about that. And as I say, it just all feels slightly unearned. He'd probably be normally in an episode be happy to hand over command to Scotty and beam down to a planet or something to help Kirk. So why should he not be happy to hand over to Scotty now? Doesn't make sense. Although he does rightly express surprise his mother doesn't understand Vulcans despite living with them for so long. You'd think you should be used to their smeg by now. Oh, you're so logical. You're like, duh. It's taken this long for you to realise, you twit. Plus, you were extolling the virtues of their logic earlier on in the episode. Anyway, there's a powerful scene where she talks about her concern for Spock when he was a child, which is sweet. But then that's all ruined when she gives him a slap.
Yeah.
Which is completely unpleasant. What a slapper.
Yeah, that's really not nice. If they didn't do that, if instead, for example, she stormed off in tears, that would be fine.
Yeah, it's just, you wouldn't slap an adult. I mean, hopefully you wouldn't slap a child, but...
No.
Oh, dear. As she leaves, the door opens and closes automatically as usual, but then Spock goes and puts his hand on the door and it doesn't open. How did it know that that's what he wanted to do? How bizarre. Kirk comes round and McCoy brings him up to speed on the situation with Spock and Sarek, and the captain decides to convince Spock he's okay, then turn command over to Scotty, which was the plan, until the alien vessel gets closer, and then Kirk changes his mind, which is a bit baffling, since he's clearly in no condition to be in command.
He isn't, but I think it's supposed to show the feeling of responsibility of command and how difficult it is to let go.
Well, it's not good, to be honest. You ought to be able to hand over command in situations where you're not able to give your best. That's the way the military's supposed to work. It's not all about I'm the highest ranking, and even though I'm not feeling very well at the moment, I've still got to do it because I'm the highest ranking. That's not how it works.
No, but there is a sense when you are in charge of something, when you have responsibility for something, that if you give it up, that you're letting people down.
But then again, because he's not well, he could pass out at any point. Well, then he's letting everybody down if he does that, doesn't he? Because there's nobody in command then.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the right decision. I'm saying it's understandable. I'm not saying it's correct. I think that it's also supposed to be showing you as well that that's kind of what Spock was doing. That Spock is more human than he realises.
I realise that, but again, it smacks of bad command training. Basically, they should be realising that they're not at the moment capable for whatever reason and handing over command.
But then we had that episode where we kept wanting Kirk to hand over command and he wouldn't, and he was an arse. So do they?
Which one was that? I mean, they've narrowed it down.
Was he getting old or something?
Oh yes, the Deadly Years. That was appalling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
McCoy uses an impressive chunky bit of tech to operate on Sarek, and we see a version of this in Next Generation.
Do we?
Yes.
Where?
I think only in the early seasons, but I'll find you a picture in a bit. But yeah.
What I want to know is, every now and again it's like smoking. Is it supposed to?
Yeah, that was weird. It was like he was soldering Sarek
yeah,
up.
That's what I thought.
Either that, we've got a sneaky fag down there.
I don't know, but it did. It kept
I'm getting ash in the wound.
Oh.
In the brig, security are forced to stun their Andorian prisoner, and in the process, one of his antennae breaks off. As they come under attack, in a nice move, Kirk transfers Chekhov to Spock's science station. What is less logical is that you should be operating the firing controls from there. That should be the helmsman's job. But it isn't happening, as Sulu isn't back from recording a World War II movie, so, Sarek's heart stops and the power goes down, necessitating the use of a portable stimulator, which is quite sensible. They've got that to hand. The Andorian is brought to the bridge and Kirk accuses him of being a surgically altered spy, which, is this the first time this has happened? It won't be the last, but happens a lot in Next Gen.
Yeah. Doesn't it happen in Deep Space Nine as well?
Yes, it does. They cut power to play dead, encouraging their opponent to drop speed, then immobilise it, but rather than surrender, their foe self-destructs, as does the Andorian via poison, which acts rather faster than he was expecting. It's kind of like a surprise. Oh, bugger! I'm already dead.
I need to have miscalculated.
Bizarrely, Kirk passes command to Chekhov, who's only an ensign, where you've got Uhura outranking him as lieutenant there to be asked.
Yeah.
Annoying. Spock tells them that the Andorian has actually turned out to be an Orion. Nice they get a mention again as well. They would get to sow discord and sell dilithium to both sides in any conflict, which sounds very Orion, it has to be said.
Yeah.
Apparently their ship seemed so overpowered because they never intended to come home from their suicide mission. Spock gets no thanks from his father, and Amanda loses her rag with them. Why did you marry her father, Spock asks. It seemed logical at the time, is the reply. Kirk nearly collapses, and when Spock attempts to get up, McCoy orders the pair of them to bed and to shut up, rejoicing in getting the last word, which actually is one of the better comedy endings to an episode.
Yeah.
That's nowhere near as cringe as these things normally are. So, introducing family members of characters is often a sign that a show is running out of ideas. But the tension between Spock and his father works well to add dramatic tension. And as I say, it's not binary. It's not like, Sarek's completely against his son.
No.
Even though their obviously relationships are strained, he's still capable of wanting his son to be treated professionally. So that's nice. We have the introduction of Tellarites and Andorians, along with the mention of Orions, Klingons and Romulans, making the Trek universe rather deeper than it was before. The attraction of Amanda to Sarek is a bit unfathomable, and the fact that she doesn't understand logic after all this time, but there you go.
Yeah.
And some of Kirk's decisions are dubious, but other than that, I think it's a cool episode.
I think with Amanda, what I sense from her is more frustration. So, under normal circumstances, because we have it under normal circumstances before she finds that Sarek is ill, she's defending their logic, she's admiring it. I think it's just that she's so frustrated, and she doesn't. Well, the closest person she has, I suppose, to share her human side with is Kirk, but she can't get that emotion reciprocated from either her husband or her son. So she is being illogical in decrying logic, but at the same time she's being very human. So I don't have a problem with that aspect of it. I have a big problem with her slapping him.
Oi, that's awful.
And you're right, it's not nice the way Kirk treats Uhura. Like, she didn't have to be told, and certainly not in that tone of voice, what she needed to do. She bloody knew.
Yeah.
And yeah, it shouldn't be, go on, Chekhov, you have the bridge. No, Uhura's got the bridge. Or Scotty, who you mentioned before, but you're clearly saving money, you're not showing him. But there's no reason why you can't say Scotty to the bridge and then just not show him.
Yeah.
But I really like Amanda and Sarek. I mean, Mark Leonard again gives a fantastic performance, but so does, who was it you said played Amanda?
Jane Wyatt.
Yeah, she's really good as well.
She is, yeah.
And I also liked...
A little bit stagey, arguably, but she works.
Yeah,
she works.
But I also liked the guy who played, not the Andorian spy, but the Andorian ambassador.
Yeah, he had a weird way of speaking, didn't he? Which is
intriguing.
The spy didn't have, so it's obviously not an Andorian thing. They certainly speak relatively normally in the future.
But there were inflections in his voice that I can remember from Jeffrey Combs playing Shran in Enterprise.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Reggie Nalder.
It makes me wonder whether Jeffrey Combs had watched that performance.
Maybe. I wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. But it was sort of like, I could see aspects of it, and also sort of little head tilts and stuff. And
it's nowhere near as... I mean, you could arguably his accent's quite eccentric. I mean, for all I know, it could be his natural accent.
Yeah, we don't know.
It could be from foreign places, but it just sounds a bit weird. But it works as an alien race. Yeah. It's just unfortunate that his other crewman doesn't talk in the same way.
Yeah. But as they said in Doctor Who, every planet has a north.
Well, indeed, yes. So I think it airs on the side of classic rather than toss.
Yes, it's just not without its flaws.
Indeed.
Yes.
What does anybody else think?
And we've heard from Jeff, who writes, "This is one of my favourite episodes. There's intrigue, action and family drama. Mark Leonard and Jane Wyatt are fantastic guest stars. While not all perfectly realised, the alien delegates make the Federation and the world of the show feel more fleshed out and alive." Very
Indeed.
true. Yep.
And we've heard from Boss. There's a lot going on in this episode, possibly enough for 2 episodes. We had Spock parents being introduced in the coldest family reunion ever. Some alien races introduced, including ones wearing somewhat rubbish pig masks with eye holes far too far from their eyes. A medical emergency with his father that resulted in Spock having to take a big risk to save him. A medical emergency for Kirk that resulted in Spock choosing not to help his father. Kirk having to get off his sickbed to save the day, struggling through an injury that was oddly bandaged, nowhere near where he'd actually been stabbed.
That's true, actually.
And quite why the bandages need to be sparkly as well is a bit beyond me.
It's magic.
Yeah. A space battle with a super fast but small ship that involved firing phasers and photon torpedoes. Maybe not seen in the original version. No, you did see them in the original version. A dastardly fake Andorian spy who didn't read the label on the poison he took. DeForest Kelley having lots of fun being grumpy and telling off Kirk and Spock. Yes, he does that. Despite the Pat plot, we still had time to learn more about the Vulcan customs and traditions that were properly introduced to Sarek and Amanda. There were some times when it seemed a bit too rushed and some of the editing was too fast, particularly when we jumped straight into the middle of the fight between Kirk and the spy, yes. Overall, though, that was a minor issue and there was a lot to enjoy in it. Yeah. Completely agree.
What did Sampo and Yomana think?
Hello.
Hello.
So we just watched Journey to Babel.
What happened in it?
Family drama featuring Vulcans.
Yes. And something about Spock being human.
Yeah, half human. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's been mentioned before, but I'm not 100% sure. If it was new information, it wasn't really sort of treated as a surprise or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I really liked this episode. I mean, I liked the atmosphere, and I think everyone was sort of, funnily enough, acting logically. I think like Kirk was a good captain, and I think everything more or less made sense. Or did it?
I guess they did. I guess the story was kind of well wrapped.
Yeah, well written story, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, in the end, it was Bones who than everyone else.
Yeah, and he was so happy.
I finally got the final word.
As ending jokes go, that was pretty good, I think. I don't know where they got the budget for the makeup, because they were like more distinct aliens in this episode than I think all the other episodes put together. I mean, I'm not counting aliens that look exactly like humans or are paper mache statues, but so someone went all out with the makeup.
Yeah.
And I mean, for once, I think the space battle also made sort of sense. I mean, of course, there was just sort of ball of light going back and forth on the screen, but there were always like tactics involved, and the idea that there's a ship that's designed for a sort of suicide mission, and it's masquerading as a more powerful ship. That was pretty clever. And okay, it was simple that they sort of powered down to make them look like they were out of the fight, and then they destroyed it. It was simple, but I mean, it was cleverer than that we're used to in Star Trek, I think, which was nice.
Yeah, usually they just come with peace. Puff.
Yeah.
So I think that Spock's dad was right when he was saying that it's illogical for Spock to be in illogical Starfleet when they say they come in peace, but all they do is demolition.
Yeah, well, Kirk says it's the last resort, but they resort to it almost every episode. So yeah, who's illogical now?
It was quite touching when Mom of Spock tried to reach the human side of Spock. Yeah.
Sarek, his father, he did get on nerves a bit, like, wife, attend. I'll have to start using that.
Had to use, just try, please. I dare you. They had to have this finger touching, like binding them together or something.
Yeah, they need to finger each other to show their marriage.
On public, not logic.
It was half of the Vulcan salute. I just realized that.
Oh my!
The two fingers.
Yeah, the fingering one. Oh. The places my mind just went. I can't deal with this anymore.
Are you enjoying that, Sarek? No, enjoyment is appealing. This is quite logical. So yes, like I said, I quite enjoyed this. What about you?
Talking about the episode is more delightful than the episode itself.
Not enough tribbles then, I guess.
No. There's one thing I am wondering, the Vulcan.
Yes,
Vulcanianism.
Yeah.
How did they ever get together, like Mom Spock and
Dad Spock? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean,
and then they had this ritual.
Oh yeah, the marrying.
And they still don't believe in violence.
Yeah, I mean who's being illogical now? Okay, we Vulcans don't believe in violence except every 7 years when they go and fight to the death in order to get a mate or something. I mean, maybe Mom Spock just wandered into the arena by accident while Dad Spock was going through the all horned up and
it just dies if he can't get laid. Or
yeah, and next morning he was married to the human, and it was like, how did this happen?
It was logical at the time.
It all makes sense now.
But she's being this proper mom lady who loves his husband no matter what, even when they are wife here, like treating her like dog.
Yeah, well, she was just like, well, it's the Vulcan way.
Then even when she has been married several years, they still say that she will not understand because she's not Vulcan.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's everything.
Oh, yes.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye! Yeah, I like the idea that Sarek was in the throes of Ponfar and then she just wandered in. Maybe that's why he decries violence so much.
Right.
Because he went for her instead of killing someone or something, I don't know. But
yeah, good luck using wife attend, Sampo. I'm not too sure that's going to work well.
No. But the idea that you're direct rather than being polite is Vulcan. Yeah,
that kind of makes sense.
So it's
just seems rude, doesn't it?
It seems rude to us. It doesn't mean it's rude for them.
Yeah.
It would only be rude for them if he only ever...
If she gets to say husband attend, then it's okay.
Then it's fine. We don't see that, but that doesn't mean it. Well, but then there's a power imbalance in the specific context we find them where he is an ambassador and she is not.
Yeah.
So it's about what's it like for them in the home and also for other Vulcans. Or, equally, is it that she doesn't get to say husband to tend because she's not Vulcan? Because we are seeing her being discriminated against for being human.
Maybe.
So it's not necessarily the case that she's being discriminated against because she's a woman. It could be, but we don't know that. But we do already have evidence that she's discriminated against because she's human.
Mm-hmm. And yes, the budget for the makeup came from the fact that they didn't have any new sets for this, and they didn't do any new special effects either. They just cribbed them from other episodes, including the shuttle stuffs from, I think, the Galileo 7s.
Is the shuttle the Galileo 7?
Yeah, it is. Galileo, yeah. We've heard from the Llama God.
Lancelot, Fixie Tree, Ark, Urn. We have been directed to neutral territory to visit a place of commerce and diplomacy for 250,000 humans and aliens. A shiny... Wait a minute. Yeoman? Now then, this is an important foundational episode for Star Trek because it introduces Spock's family and the idea of tensions there. But unfortunately, this is not a classic. Yes, we get to learn some of Spock's backstory, but that's really a backstory. The main story about the murder mystery that's happening on the Enterprise, murder on board the Ambassadorial Express, is not very good, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a bit of mystery. Did Sarek do it? No, obviously not. And there's a ship chasing them for a bit, but there's just no tension. The main story seems to be Sarek's illness and whether or not Spock's going to assist in that. And yeah, okay, that's good character drama for our regulars, but on the other hand, there's no real main drama coming from what should be the main plot line, and that's an unfortunate mistake. There's a bit of imbalance there, so yeah, not so keen on that. And also, there's quite a lot of misogyny in this episode as well, so that makes it uncomfortable viewing at the same time. I mean, it is nice to meet Sarek for the first time, kind of, unless you've been watching Strange New Worlds first, but anyway, it's kind of nice to meet Sarek and discover the tension that exists between him and his son. Like the whole idea of Spock refusing to undergo surgery, not because he feels any animosity towards his father, which you might expect if it was a human, for example, but because it is merely the logical thing to do. I mean, obviously he makes the point that Scotty is needed in main engineering, but what about Sulu? Yeah, okay, I guess Sulu was busy off filming another war film at that point or something, I guess. Yeah, maybe. And it does give us a really nice moment where Kirk, who has also been injured, has to pretend that he's okay in order to get Spock off the bridge. That's a lovely little moment of camaraderie there, although Kirk's obviously also acting in the best interest of the Federation by saving its ambassador. So there is some nice stuff there, and it's nice to see them to play between the main characters as well. And there's a nice little bit where the fake Andorian also miscalculates what he's done, a nice little line there, but yeah, it's just not there with the main story, unfortunately. I find it really rather lacking. Of course, the big downside, as I say, is the misogyny. There's the potential for it to have a really nice ending where McCoy finally gets the last word, which would have been nice to have seen, but unfortunately, right before that, we get some absolutely horrible misogyny where Spock and Sarek finally bond over the fact that Earth women have feelings. You know, women, Huh? What are you going to do? Yeah, that's not a great moment. Didn't like that at all. And the really troubling aspect is, why was Mark Leonard given brown face? I hadn't noticed this before, and maybe it's watching it in high def, or maybe it's just I'm not that familiar with this episode, and I don't think it's something they come back to in the films, or if they do, it's a subtle tan as opposed to what they've done here, but he's very uncomfortable, isn't it? Obviously, Joe brought this up when I was wondering what was going on there, and Joe did point out that we had the very Asian coding of T'Pring and her family when we met them back in Amok time, so maybe there's a whole idea that Vulcans are meant to be explicitly East Asian or Southeast Asian, and that's why they have the different skin colour. Don't know where Spock's green skin colour comes from at that point, which makes it stand out really, so yes, certainly a bit of an odd choice there, and definitely very uncomfortable. Not particularly pleased with that one, unfortunately. Also, there's a lovely bit at the start of the episode where Kirk is arguing that Starfleet is a force for peace, only using actual physical force when necessary, just like last week, when Scotty shot down the power stations on the Roman planet. Yeah, that's just, that was just maintaining the peace. Yeah, okay, cool. Nothing to see here. So it's an odd one, this episode, because it sounds like it should be interesting and exciting, and I think when I read the James Blish novelizations of the TV episodes, this one was an exciting episode to read, but watching it in action, especially with the misogyny, the race face, just some really bad prosthetics, although the Andorians aren't too bad, actually, and all of that is just not right. It just doesn't work, so yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, there we go. Oh well. Anyway, as ever, I'll be interested to find out what everyone else makes of this. I hope everyone's being a happy little frog right now, and until next time, glory to you and your cast.
When we watched it, Sarek wasn't brown, he was grey.
Yeah, I don't know where that's come from.
He had makeup on, he had a colouring on, but it wasn't Asian looking, it was grey. Maybe that's something to do with the remastered version. Maybe he does look more... I mean, I agree that in Strange New Worlds, it's definitely... T'Pring certainly looks more Asian. T'Pau, I can't remember.
No, she's not Asian.
No.
Yeah, don't quite know where that's coming from. I mean, Mark Leonard was part Jewish-Russian in origin, so he's going to have slightly darker coloured skin for that reason, but yeah, I don't think he had makeup on particularly.
I think he did, but it looked grey. It didn't look brown. It didn't look like...
and of course we see him first in Discovery rather than Strange New Worlds, so yeah.
Yeah.
The newer Trek, anyway. Yeah, and I didn't feel it was misogyny at the end. It was racism, if anything, about humans.
Yeah.
The fact that she was a woman was irrelevant. It was the fact that she was an emotional human that was and you married her, you twit. So why are you complaining?
Yeah.
It just does, in the same way as her complaining about him being logical doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean there is misogyny in, or arguably it could be racism, mind you.
Yes, in the treatment of Uhura.
Yes, in the treatment of Uhura, that could be either or both.
Yes.
Is there misogyny in the writing?
I don't think so. Because it's written by a woman for starters, so...
Yeah, but that could be...
Yeah. I didn't really pick up on any... Yeah, other than the way that Uhura was treated, which was sort of...
And that could be racism or misogyny or both.
I felt like there was a bit where Shatner had said, "Oh no, I've got to make it look like I know all about the communications because I'm the captain." That was my sneaky suspicion.
That could have been a Shatner thing, That could have been a Shatner being an arse, but when you're watching it... It comes across as either sexist or racist or both.
And I quite like the mystery element to it because it looks initially like it's going to be the Andorians, and then it wrong-foots you because it turns out the guy isn't actually an Andorian. And then, well, who is this person? Is he a Romulan? Is he a Klingon disguised? No, he's an Orion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought that was rather good, personally.
Yeah, I liked the plot. I did think there was drama for the main plot line because it was unknown.
Yeah.
I think... I was watching it, and it's been too long since I've seen this episode for me to have remembered it. And I was watching it thinking, oh, please don't let it be a fucking Klingon. Because that would have been predictable. Do you know what I mean? And I was very glad that that's not the route that they went down.
But I think going back to the thing about the ethnic origin of Vulcans, over the period of all the Treks, I think we get to see a Vulcan from most of the major ethnic backgrounds of Earth, ironically.
Yeah.
I mean, you've obviously got Tuvok, so it's not like they're all Oriental or white or anything. It's the same mixture as on Earth, which is quite nice, really.
I'm just trying to think, and it's been a while since I watched Enterprise, how... What's her face?
T'Pol, she came across as... If anything, I don't know the origin of the actor, but if anything, she seemed quite sort of Greek, sort of Mediterranean. Rather.
The problem is the main thing I can remember about her is her bloody Botox lips.
Yeah, no, that was very distracting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was a real fashion at the time, wasn't it? Practically every female actor had really bad Botox at the time, and so unfortunately, Enterprise copped for that. But never mind.
Yeah. I mean, it might be that there was an intention to go for an Asian look, and it could be that on the remastered version... I
mean, certainly there are Asian influences in terms of the design work for Vulcans, I think that's fair to say, so you might sort of err, but to give them some benefit of the doubt, I think they kind of draw from several cultures rather than just one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But we watched...
But all the gongs and stuff, that's quite Eastern, isn't it?
It is. But we watched the original version, and Sarek's skin tone was grey.
Yeah, it's fine.
But... If Lama was watching
possibly the remastered, they've done something with the colour mix.
If they've done something with the colour mix and made him look brown, he was wearing makeup. He was wearing face makeup. There's no doubt about that. And so it could be that, therefore, he did look brown face in the new version. What did Drew and Tracy make of this?
So we just watched Journey to Babel.
We did.
And what do we think of that one then?
I think it's iconic, and there's stuff that I like in it, and it's important, but I don't think it's quite a classic.
Oh, really? Controversial.
It's good. I liked it. Maybe it is, but I just don't feel like the passion of like so many other classic episodes.
Okie dokie, then let's go through some points.
Okay.
So, Sarek.
Yes.
Is like on a mission or an ambassador trip.
Yeah.
So comes aboard the Enterprise.
With Amanda.
They blank Spock.
I know.
Big time.
Why is Amanda blanking him?
And we stopped it and we had a discussion about the background of Sarek and Spock and what was kind of covered in Discovery.
Yes.
And that was fine. And we kind of get that because then they do reference that later. But Amanda, to blank your son,
I know.
That's just rudeness.
I guess she's supporting Sarek, you might
but it's
say.
Her son.
I know.
Bollocks.
I know.
So skip to what are you going to call the Ambassador's Ball?
The Ambassador's Ball, yes.
Yeah. Where were the Ferrero Rocher first?
It's a good point, yeah. They should have read Space Ferrero Rocher, shouldn't they? Yeah. Like glowing green or something.
But then you had some good characters in there, like the Tellarites and the Andorians.
Yes. It's good to see them, yeah. Not so good effects.
Andorians, like their antennas wiggling.
I know they did. They did
was
in
that
Enterprise, didn't they? But they don't do now, do they? We've recently watched Strange New Worlds, and we've got Andorian, and there's no more wiggles, no more wigglers going on.
So 100%, I have to say, Kirk no shirt.
Yeah, I know. Where you say hello.
Fucking awesome. Well, the thing is, you had that security guard who kind of like finds the dead Tellarite.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, hello, he's quite dishy for like a, a Star Trek guy. And then it instantly cuts to Kirk. So for like 3 minutes, I was quite...
Fair enough.
I was quite happy.
I liked anyway, when Kirk was using his guile to defeat the baddie spaceship, wasn't it? It's good, it's good. It's a typical Kirk plan. Now let's play dead and then lure him in and phase him to death. It's good.
Yeah. So the Tellarite that got killed.
Yes.
We just skipped a bit then.
Yep.
I'm sure they said his name was Gav.
Gav, yeah.
As
Gavlar.
in Gavin? Gavlar. And we started saying Gavlar.
Oh, it did. Yeah, it's good.
Can't be Gav, can it?
I think it was Gav. I don't know, Gav.
So we have to address, like, Sarek is obviously the number one suspect.
Yes.
But then he comes back, and even Amanda says, oh, he's gone off, like, private meditation. And he comes back and says, oh, I've been off for private meditation. And we both said... Is that like code for going for a poo?
I know, yes, I was laughing because we literally just said that. I'm going for a private meditation. I wouldn't go in the toilet if I was you for 15 minutes.
Leave it a while, love.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's going to be our new phrase from now on. So, we've got to address that. Like, Sarek has a bad heart.
Yep.
How does he have, like, 3 heart attacks? Similar heart attacks without even Amanda knowing.
He's been sneaky. Vulcan's always sneaky.
But you have one before you even came on the ship, for crying out loud. And so there's this dilemma. Spock's the only one who's like...
Can give the blood.
Yeah. But first of all, how are they going to filter out the human elements of the blood? That was ridiculous. But then Spock goes into ship mode and wants to put... career before saving your dad. It was like, you bloody idiot.
We liked when they was tricking Spock to get off the bridge, wasn't it? It's good.
As soon as he went off and Kirk kind of just collapsed into the chair.
Yes.
Of course, got into the bridge. That was really funny.
So we're both being shits, Spock and Sarek, when they're both being misogynistic to Amanda. It's like they're a pair of twats, aren't they?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And the fucking phrase. One does not thank logic. You dick.
Now, let's cut to the chase, though. Yeah, it's all right episode. Enjoyable, but I don't think it's quite a classic.
Oh, okay.
That's in my opinion.
That's fine. You're entitled to that.
Yep.
Okay, should we leave it there?
Okie dokie.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye. That's interesting. They thought they were Spock and Sarek are being misogynistic as well. So, we'll see something in that. Like that idea of going for a meditation. Very stinky. I think we mentioned we have another topless Kirk shot for no good reason in this one.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose arguably he's changing out of his dress uniform into his normal uniform. Yeah. But even so, I can't help feeling Shatner's got it written in his contract now that we're going to get a couple of topless scenes every season. That perhaps all that coloured stuff was the space Ferrero Rocher. You never know.
Yeah, but I wrote down no space Ferrero Rocher, just Play-Doh. Maybe they're donuts. And who is this dishy security guard?
Oh yeah, he's quite a well built chunk, as in muscly dude. Yeah, he does get a couple of speaking lines.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he gets named though.
What did Parry make of this?
Hello, orcs. Parry here, recording live from a hotel room in York to talk about Journey to Babel. Now, this episode, I wouldn't call it underrated, but it doesn't often make the top lists. Or at least I've not seen it on as much, which is a real shame because I think this is actually a really cracking episode. For starters, it's one of the first times the Federation doesn't look like a humans-only club, a Homo sapiens-only club, if you will. Instead, this is where you start seeing a lot of other aliens. Now, obviously, they aren't done often, because it's expensive and because Tellarites look absolutely terrible. The rubbish pig masks are really something. But there's I quite liked seeing it in the different personalities, the experience of like Sarek with Tellarites, but also the Andorian. In fact, that Andorian ambassador, for his couple of bits of screen time, is actually quite an interesting chap. Just the way he talks. And again, first Andorians we see as well, and first mention of Orions, all of whom become like fairly major players in maybe not Trek up until probably Enterprise as a push, but definitely in modern Trek. There's a lot more about these races. So it's interesting to see where it all kind of began. I'd forgotten that they make Sarek being Spock's dad a reveal, but it is quite good. Because I knew he was Spock's dad when I saw the episode. I never really realised before now that, yes, that was treated as a big kind of shock moment. The acting in this is really good. But the scenes between Sarek and Amanda, Mark Leiner's is obviously great, and no one even comments about the fact that he looks like that Romulan captain they saw last year. But Sarek and Amanda, there's some real warmth there, particularly in the scenes in their quarters, but without excessive show of emotions from Sarek's part. I thought that was really well done, and there's generally good face acting. The scenes between Kirk and Amanda are actually quite good, where they've almost got something in common of to help the slash fiction writers being in love with a Vulcan. And just there's a lot of an emotional core to this. So you've got this like a main emotional core of Spock's relationship with his dad, but we also have a mystery plot on a shipload of ambassadors, and to add to that, you've then got the ship being under attack. You've got Sarek potentially dying of an illness. He does that a lot, it seems. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot going on in it, but it never feels rushed or confused. It feels like a coherent sort of story. The only thing you could maybe say is it starts off like it's going to be a whodunit and then takes a left turn to be more this idea of Spock trying to, the medical kind of, the medical mystery. One of the gripes I would have is McCoy talks a lot about how he doesn't know the physiology. Now, he does say he can read it, and I get the idea of knowing something is not the same as being able to do it. You can read the instructions for something, but from someone whose job it is to teach people stuff, which is quite often hands-on, knowing the theory and knowing the practice are two very different things. But that said, there are occasional times, like when he says, he talks about Sarek's blood pressure, and he says, his blood pressure is this. And it's, he says, and I don't know if that's good. Did you not Google that before you started, McCoy? But that's it. Like I say, it's just it's a story based in character, which I think works really well. And in fact, it allows a lot of things to go. I mean, despite the fact that they have to hide the fact that Scotty and Sulu are clearly on holiday. Why don't you call Mr. Scott and get him to take command? Oh, James Doohan isn't in this episode. I can't. Sorry. One of the things I hadn't noticed until I actually saw the screenshot from it later is, so the original Orion ship in the unremastered version is just a glowy light. In the remastered version, they kind of make it a swirly ship, and then I'd only noticed in the Lower Decks Strange New Worlds crossover, the Orion scout ship looks like the Orion ship from the remastered version. So I thought that was just a nice touch of Strange New Worlds, looking at these remasters and actually trying to, for the few Orion ships we see, trying to build a sort of coherent design philosophy, or at least make them similar. So again, nice little touch from the connection. But overall, this episode is full of good character moments, some really good acting, and again, not just vocal, but actually like face and expression acting. The only other bit is when Kirk suddenly gets attacked by the Andorian. Like, it feels like there's a scene missing. It's literally, we cut to him being attacked by an Andorian, but that's basically it. But yes, shiny dialogue, really good. So all that remains to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I hope to be back to the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, the Orion ship design, you see a lot more of it in Strange New Worlds. So, yes, but I can see that it does relate to it, but it's not zipping around the screen like a crazy thing. It's actually moving at a decent pace, and you can get a half-decent view at it. So, yeah.
Did they see the Romulan commander at all in Barons of Terror?
Yes, they did, because they reacted to the fact that Romulans look like Vulcans.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so they should have gone, oh yeah, it does look a bit familiar.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
And Spock should have gone, he looks just like my dad.
Yeah.
McCoy's records are indeed pants.
Yes.
You should be able to... Yeah, the Federation database ought to have stuff about medical stuff for Vulcans, unless they're being very, very coy, which they are over certain areas, obviously, but nevertheless.
Yeah. And, Space Google should be...
Yeah.
Yes, should be able to tell. But you're right, the Federation is not a humans-only club.
And for once, that actually comes across in this.
Which is good to see.
Grand. Well, thank you for everybody who fed back. Quite a sort of variety of reactions to this episode, interestingly, this time round, which is good. Next time, we'll be recording in 3 weeks' time, because we're going on Hollybobs next week. Recording on the 24th of August, and we'll be covering A Private Little War, which I can't remember anything about, I must admit, so...
No. But then, I'm not likely to anyway. You know me and episode titles.
Good. Well, we look forward to that. Until then, take care. Cheery bye.
Bye.
The Star Trek theme was written by Alexander Courage, and here was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Palastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can find us over on Mastodon. Our addresses are on the show notes for this podcast.
Shut it down!